Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. The year begins in ordinary darkness, under a low summer sky above Little Whinging. Harry Potter lies in the flower bed outside number 4 Privet Drive, listening hard to the evening news through the open living room window. The Dursleys are inside, watching television with the volume turned up. But Harry is not truly interested in their show. He is waiting for one particular kind of story, any mention of strange, unexplained events. Harry knows that the dark wizard who killed his parents has returned. He saw Lord Voldemort rise again in a graveyard, watched him regain a real body, and barely escaped with his life. Yet, everywhere he looks, the world is quiet. The Daily Prophet has stopped printing his name. There are no headlines about Death Eaters or attacks. No one seems to believe him, and Dumbledore has sent so few messages that Harry feels abandoned. So he listens to the Muggle news instead. There might be a bridge collapse, a mysterious disappearance, or some strange happening that could hint at hidden magic. But every night, the same kind of stories appear. Political arguments, local crimes, weather, nothing clearly magical at all. Harry wipes sweat off his forehead. It has been a hot, airless summer. He has grown taller, and his clothes are even more uncomfortable than usual. His scar has hurt on and off for weeks without explanation. He is angry and restless, full of questions with no answers. He has written to Ron and Hermione, but their replies are cautious and vague. They keep saying that Dumbledore has forbidden them to say too much, that they are together somewhere safe, that Harry will be told everything soon. Harry feels as though his friends are living a secret life, while he sits here, trapped with the Dursleys. Yet, he is also afraid that something terrible is happening far away, and he is being kept away on purpose. He lies in the flower bed and scowls up at the sky, at the fading pink of sunset. Inside the living room, Uncle Vernon changes the channel and complains. Aunt Petunia sighs about the neighbor trimming his hedge. Dudley, larger than ever, and now obsessed with boxing, mutters with his friends about their latest bullying adventures. Harry hears their voices and feels a familiar mixture of irritation and boredom. Then he hears something that makes him sit up. The news presenter mentions an odd thing, a story that sounds like it might be more than it seems. But before the reporter can say much, Uncle Vernon snorts, grabs the remote, and flicks to another channel. Harry curses under his breath and bangs his head on the open window as he tries to crawl closer. Inside, Uncle Vernon notices the sound and storms over, furious to find Harry lurking outside. There is a loud exchange. Vernon threatens him, as usual, about his freakishness. Harry, no longer a small boy, answers back more sharply than before. He nearly mentions Voldemort and the danger that exists beyond their narrow street. Instead, he bites back the words. He cannot stand another argument about what is real and what is not. Eventually, Vernon orders him to leave the window and not to eavesdrop. Harry stalks away, clenching his fists. Anger burns in his chest. He cannot send letters by all too often without attracting attention. He cannot use magic outside school without risk of expulsion. He feels fully cut off from the world that matters to him. Later, after some time in his room, Harry goes out again, this time walking through the dark streets of Little Whinging. He heads toward the park, hands in his pockets, thoughts circling. The town feels strangely empty, as though even the Muggles sense something heavy in the air. The only light comes from street lamps and the low glow of the setting sun. As he reaches the playground, he hears footsteps behind him. Dudley and his gang are heading home from their evening of entertainment. The other boys peel away, leaving Dudley alone with Harry. Dudley is big and muscular now, proud of his boxing trophies, but he is still the same bully at heart. He starts to taunt Harry. Dudley mocks him for talking in his sleep about Cedric and Voldemort. He imitates Harry waking from nightmares, crying out. He sneers about Cedric Diggory, the boy who died in the graveyard, saying things that make Harry see red. Harry pulls his wand, warning Dudley to shut up. A small gust of wind stirs the litter in the gutter. The street lamps flicker. Harry thinks the weather is finally breaking. A storm must be coming. Yet the air does not smell like rain. It feels cold, far too cold for a warm summer night. The darkness thickens. The lamps go out, one by one. Harry feels a familiar chill, one he hoped never to feel again. Dementors. They cannot be here. They are supposed to guard Azkaban far away. Yet he hears the rattling breath, feels the crushing sense of hopelessness flooding his chest. In an instant, he is back in his memories, hearing his mother scream as Voldemort kills her. His knees buckle. He hears Dudley fall, babbling in fear. Harry forces himself to act. He fumbles for his wand in the dark, takes a desperate breath, and focuses on the happiest memory he can reach. Quidditch victories, Ron and Hermione at his side, the warmth of the Gryffindor common room. Expecto Patronum. A silver stag bursts from his wand, bright and silent, charging the Dementors and driving them away down the alley. The light chases back the darkness. The air warms slightly. Dudley lies on the ground, shaking and retching. He cannot understand what happened. For him, there were only terrifying feelings and a whisper of the worst moments of his life. Harry has to drag him back toward Privet Drive, half guiding, half carrying him. Dudley keeps moaning, confused, calling out, as though he is being attacked by invisible monsters. Before they reach the house, a neighbor appears. The squinting form of Mrs. Fig emerges from the gloom, carrying a bag of cat food. Harry knows her as the strange old woman who sometimes babysat him when the Dursleys went out. She smells of cabbage and talks about cats. Now she drops the act and tells him in a low voice that he must not put away his wand. She orders him to get Dudley home. She knows exactly what happened. She has seen Dementors before. Mrs. Fig reveals that she is a squib, born to magical parents, but unable to perform magic herself. She has been living nearby on Dumbledore orders, keeping an eye on Harry whenever he is forced to stay with the Dursleys. Harry, stunned, realizes that he has had allies close by all along, disguised as ordinary neighbors. She tells him that they must report the Dementor attack at once. She hurries back to her cats, leaving Harry to drag Dudley up the driveway. The Dursleys are shocked when they see their son in this condition. Aunt Petunia screams. Uncle Vernon demands to know what Harry has done. Harry tries to explain, but they do not know what a Dementor is. They only see their precious boy damaged, and their hated nephew standing nearby with a wand in his hand. As the shouting builds, an owl swoops in through the window with a letter from the Ministry of Magic. Harry tears it open and reads with horror. He is informed that he has performed magic in the presence of a muggle, in violation of the rules for underage wizards. His wand will be confiscated, and he is expelled from Hogwarts. A hearing will be held at the ministry. Harry feels the world tilt. Expelled. The word rings in his ears. Hogwarts is the only place he has ever truly felt at home. Without it, he is not sure who he is. Another owl arrives shortly after with a second message that partially corrects the first. Harry is told that his expulsion is suspended until after the hearing. He must still attend school for now, but the threat hangs over him. Letters arrive from Arthur Weasley and others, urging him not to leave the house and promising that Dumbledore is working on his behalf. Nobody explains why Dementors were in Little Whinging in the first place. The Dursleys look between Harry and the swirling owls with horror. The house fills with tension. Petunia remembers, with a shiver, the hooded creatures she once heard about. Vernon demands to know who is sending the owls. Harry shouts back. The argument becomes a tangle of fear and frustration, until a final owl informs Harry of the time and place of his ministry, hearing in London. In his small bedroom that night, Harry sits on his bed, clutching his wand. He is furious with everyone. With the ministry, with Dumbledore for staying silent, with his friends for writing careful letters full of nothing. Anger and fear churn together in his chest. Time drags. Days pass with no further news. Harry is made to stay in his room, only allowed out for short trips to the bathroom and quick meals. The Dursleys treat him as if he is dangerous. He lies awake at night thinking of the Dementors, of Voldemort, of the possibility that the wizarding government itself might be turning against him. Then, at last, something changes. One evening, after a particularly tense day, Harry is locked in his room while the Dursleys watch television downstairs. He lies on his bed in the dim light, staring at the cracks in the ceiling. A loud crack echoes from the street outside, like someone apparating nearby. Harry jumps to the window. He sees nothing at first, then another bang. Before he can decide what to do, voices call his name from downstairs. The Dursleys shout in confusion. Heavy footsteps move through the hallway. Harry hears his uncle yelling. The door to his bedroom bursts open. A tall figure with a magical eye, a young witch with pink hair, a weary but familiar man with tired eyes, and several other witches and wizards stand there, looking at him. They have come from the Order of the Phoenix to take him away. The people standing in Harry's doorway are a strange and varied group. At their head is Alistair Moody, the real one this time, the retired Auror with the magical eye that whirs and swivels in all directions. Beside him stands Nymphadora Tonks, who begs him to call her simply Tonks. She has bright hair that can change color at will and a clumsy charm that makes her instantly memorable. There's also Kingsley Shacklebolt, tall and calm, with a deep voice and an air of quiet competence. Remus Lupin is their Harry former defense against the dark arts teacher, a gentle man with threadbare robes and a tired face. Several other members stand behind them, all serious and alert. They explain that they are here on Dumbledore orders to escort Harry to a safe house. They are members of the Order of the Phoenix, a secret group that opposes Voldemort and his followers, just as an earlier order did in the First War. Harry has to leave now, they say. There is no time to argue with the Dursleys. Downstairs, the conversation is brief and tense. Moody and the others tell Vernon and Petunia that Harry will be away for the rest of the summer. Moody frightens them with a few well-chosen words about the dangers outside, enough to silence their objections. Harry scribbles a quick note to the Dursleys about his belongings, grabs his trunk and Hedwig cage, and follows the order out into the warm night. They travel on foot to a nearby park where Harry learns their plan. They will fly to London on broomsticks and other magical mounts, keeping to the clouds, avoiding Muggle notice. Harry is given a spare broom. He feels a thrill despite everything. He has missed flying. They take off, soaring up into the sky. Little Whinging drops away beneath them, its neat houses shrinking to small squares of yellow light. The air cools as they climb. The group rides in formation, Moody barking directions, Tonks swooping and wobbling, Kingsley silent and focused. Harry sees the dark ribbon of the Thames below them as they approach London. He hears the rush of wind in his ears. For the first time in weeks, he feels almost free. Eventually, Moody calls for a descent. They spiral down over a shabby row of old London houses, all pressed together in a narrow street. They land quietly, stash their brooms, and herd Harry to the pavement. Tonks hands him a small, folded piece of paper. On it is a single sentence in Dumbledore handwriting, giving the location of the Order headquarters. As Harry reads it, a new building seems to grow between the houses, forcing them apart. Number 12, Grimmauld Place, appears where a moment before there had been only a gap. The house looks dark, tall, and unfriendly, with blackened windows and peeling paint. The front steps are cracked, the door heavy and ominous. Moody urges Harry forward. They slip inside quickly and shut out the night. The hallway is gloomy and narrow. The wallpaper peels. The air smells of dust and age. A large umbrella stand shaped like a troll foot stands near the door. As they move down the hall, Tonks knocks over a small table, and a hidden door curtain flies open. From behind it, a portrait of a furious woman starts screaming. Her shrieks echo through the house. She shouts insults about blood traitors and filth. She calls the visitors scum and howls about the purity of her family line. Members of the Order rush to close the curtains again, struggling to silence her. Finally, the portrait is hidden once more, and the hallway grows quiet. Harry's heart still races. Mrs. Weasley appears, flushed and busy. She hugs Harry tightly, scolding him for worrying them, then fusses about the mess in the hall and the noise waking up everyone. She sends Tonks and the others to help in the kitchen while she pulls Harry along, eager to feed him and settle him in. In the kitchen, Harry finds familiar faces. Ron and Hermione leap up from the table to greet him. Fred and George grin with a mixture of relief and mischief. Ginny smiles shyly. At the far end of the room sits Sirius Black, Harry Godfather, looking thin and restless, but truly glad to see him. The room is full of people from the Order, all talking in low voices. This house, they explain, is the ancestral home of the Black family. Sirius hated it as a child and left as soon as he could. Now, with many relatives dead and the property placed in his hands, he has given it to the Order for use as a headquarters. The house is filled with dark artifacts, ugly heirlooms, and a deep old magic that does not always feel friendly. Harry listens as best he can while eating Mrs. Weasley cooking. But every time someone begins to talk about serious matters, they lower their voices or move to another room. He feels his frustration creeping back. Once again, adults are having secret conversations while he is left in the dark. Later, upstairs, Ron and Hermione tell Harry what little they know. They have been at Grimmauld Place for part of the summer, helping clean out dangerous items, listening at doors when they can. The Order is trying to track Voldemort, figure out what he is doing, and prepare defenses. The Ministry of Magic, however, refuses to accept that Voldemort has returned and has been publicly attacking Dumbledore in the Daily Prophet, portraying him as unstable and power-hungry. Harry is furious that no one told him about any of this. He feels like a child again, kept away from important matters that affect his own life. He snaps at his friends, raising his voice in anger. Hermione and Ron understand more than he expects and let him vent, but they also tell him they had to follow Dumbledore instructions. The next days at Grimmauld Place are a mixture of boredom and unsettling discoveries. The house is full of cursed objects and remnants of dark family history. A severed house elf head collection decorates the wall. A wardrobe holds biting doxies that have to be removed. There is a particularly dangerous set of silver instruments that nobody dares touch until Moody and others lock them away. Creature, the old black family house elf, lurks in corners and mutters insults under his breath. He despises Sirius, whom he still calls a blood traitor, and feels that the strangers are defiling his mistress' house. He hoards old heirlooms and whispers about the good old days when pure blood was honored. Mrs. Weasley tries to keep the younger ones busy with cleaning tasks. The twins use the opportunity to test joke products for the shop they dream of opening. Ron complains about spiders and dust. Hermione worries about house elf rights and creature treatment. Harry drifts between rooms, feeling both included and excluded, close to important events, yet not really part of them. From time to time, members of the Order come and go. Kingsley and Tonks report on guard duty. Moody grumbles about security. Lupin and Sirius discuss old memories and new threats. Snippets of information reach Harry's ears. Voldemort is keeping his head down, perhaps developing a plan that has not yet become visible. The giants have been approached. Some Death Eaters have returned to their old positions as if nothing has changed. Others have claimed they were under the Imperious curse. One painful subject lies over all of this. Percy Weasley, who used to be pompous but still loyal to his family, has broken away. He has taken a job at the Ministry under Cornelius Fudge and turned against his parents, insisting that Dumbledore is wrong and that they should support the minister. Letters exchanged between him and his father ended in a terrible argument. Mrs. Weasley cries quietly when she thinks no one is watching. Harry feels a mixture of guilt and anger. It was his word and Dumbledore testimony about Voldemort that started much of this conflict. Yet, he also cannot control the truth. He did not ask for Voldemort return. Then another letter arrives from the Ministry, changing the details of Harry hearing. Instead of a simple minor hearing in a small office, he will face a full Wisengamot-style session in a large courtroom with many important witches and wizards present. The time is moved earlier in the morning, without warning. On the day of the hearing, Mr. Weasley takes Harry to the Ministry by way of the underground station. They travel like muggles most of the way, then enter the visitor entrance to the Ministry through an old red telephone box. Mr. Weasley dials a number. They squeeze into the booth, and the floor sinks slowly down. A pleasant female voice asks for their names for visitor badges. When the doors open, Harry steps out into the atrium of the Ministry of Magic, a grand hall with a polished floor, golden statues, and fireplaces along the walls. Witch and wizard employees move about with parchment, briefcases, and cups of tea, chatting as if this is an ordinary office building. The fountain at the center shows a wizard, a witch, a centaur, a house elf, and a goblin all arranged in a way that suggests the humans are superior, gazing upward while the others look worshipfully at them. Harry cannot help but feel that this image says something unfair about the Ministry view of other magical beings. Mr. Weasley leads him through security, where Harry Wand is weighed and registered, and then takes him toward the office of his hearing. As they ride the lift, a paper memo shaped like a plane flutters in, then out again. The Ministry feels strange and bustling, full of information, yet hiding many secrets. When they reach the level where the hearing is supposed to be, a Ministry employee informs them that the location has changed again. The hearing will now be held in courtroom 10, much lower down. The time has also been moved forward, meaning Harry is late. Panic stabs at him. Mr. Weasley urges him to hurry, but he cannot accompany Harry into the courtroom itself. Harry must face this alone. He descends into the dim, echoing corridors of the lower levels, past heavy wooden doors and rows of cells. At last, he reaches courtroom 10, the same room where Death Eaters once stood trial. He steps inside to find a semicircle of witches and wizards seated high above him, wearing plum-colored robes with silver-embroidered scales. Cornelius Fudge sits in the central chair, looking down at Harry with a closed expression. Dolores Umbridge, a small woman with a wide, toad-like face and a pink cardigan, sits at his side with a clipboard. Many others, including Amelia Bones with her monocle, are present. A single chair with chains stands in the middle of the stone floor. Harry sits in it, feeling suddenly very small. The trial begins. Section 3, the hearing and the return to Hogwarts. Fudge opens the proceedings with formal language, listing Harry's full name, age, and the charge of performing a patronus charm in front of a muggle. His tone is cool and accusatory. He does not mention Dementors at first, as if the spell had been cast for fun. Harry explains that he was under attack. He tells the assembled group that 2 Dementors appeared in the alley in Little Whinging and tried to suck out his soul and his cousin's soul. He had no choice but to defend them both. Several members leaned forward at the mention of Dementors. Amelia Bones, in particular, asks careful questions. Why were Dementors in that town at all? Who sent them? Why would they attack Harry Potter unprovoked? Fudge keeps trying to brush this aside. He suggests that perhaps Harry is confused. He questions whether the spell was really necessary. He points out that Harry has already been involved in extraordinary events at school, as if this makes him unreliable. At that moment, The door at the back of the courtroom opens. Albus Dumbledore enters, calm and composed, wearing deep-colored robes and carrying an air of quiet authority. He sits in a spare chair without waiting for invitation, as though the trial cannot proceed fairly without him. He speaks politely, but firmly on Harry's behalf. The law permits underage magic in life-threatening situations, he reminds them. If Dementors truly attacked a Muggle suburb, then the Ministry should be far more concerned about that fact than about Harry casting a Patronus. To support Harry's story, Dumbledore calls a witness. Mrs. Fig is brought in, still smelling of cats, but now standing straighter, ready to speak the truth. She tells the court that she saw the Dementors with her own eyes, that she saw Harry drive them away with his Patronus. She describes their effect on the air and the street, something only those familiar with Dementors would recognize. Fudge tries to undermine her, suggesting that as a squib, she might lie to protect Harry. Dumbledore calmly points out that there are many ways to check her statements about the conditions in Little Whinging that night. Slowly, the truth presses in on the chamber. If Dementors were there, someone must have sent them. Fudge shifts uncomfortably. The idea that someone within the Ministry might have ordered such an attack is something he does not want to entertain. After more argument, the Wisengamot withdraws to vote. Harry sits in the chained chair, heart pounding as he waits. Dumbledore does not look at him. He simply gazes at some distant point, as if planning what he will do no matter the outcome. When the members return, they announce the verdict. Harry is cleared of all charges. His wand is not to be broken. He may return to Hogwarts. Relief floods him. He barely has time to react before Dumbledore stands, nods once in his direction without meeting his eyes, and leaves the room swiftly. Fudge calls out to him, but Dumbledore ignores him and disappears. Harry feels a sting of confusion and hurt. He wanted at least a word from the headmaster, some reassurance or explanation. Instead, he is left with a swirl of questions. He returns to Mr. Weasley in the atrium and delivers the news. Mr. Weasley is delighted and proud. They head back to Grimmauld Place together, where Mrs. Weasley bursts into tears of relief on hearing that Harry has been cleared. The others cheer and clap him on the back, yet Harry keeps thinking about Dumbledore and the way he avoided looking at him. The remaining days of summer at Grimmauld Place slip past in a mix of cleaning, whispered meetings, and tension over the Daily Prophet. The newspaper continues to publish articles suggesting that Dumbledore is wrong, and that tales of Voldemort's return are overblown. Harry's name appears in print as an attention-seeking boy who is spreading stories. Sirius becomes increasingly restless, trapped in the house that reminds him of his unhappy childhood, unable to go out because the Ministry is still looking for him. He longs to act, to fight, but instead he is stuck offering Harry advice and trying to help with training plans that Mrs. Weasley does not always approve. One evening, Harry overhears an argument between Sirius and Mrs. Weasley. Molly insists that Harry is still a child, that he should be protected from the darker truths, and allowed to enjoy his school years as much as possible. Sirius, however, claims that Harry is already in the thick of this war, whether anyone likes it or not. He believes Harry should be treated more like an adult and included in serious discussions. Harry, listening on the stairs, feels torn. Part of him longs to be trusted and involved. Another part is exhausted and frightened, wishing that none of this were happening. Soon, it is time to return to Hogwarts. On the day of departure, the household moves in a rush. Trunks are dragged downstairs, school lists checked, cloaks found and straightened. Molly hugs everyone fiercely, particularly Harry. She worries about the coming year and the pressure he will face. Sirius, looking pale and caged, walks with them to King Cross Station in his animagus form as a large black dog, slipping among the muggles unnoticed. At the platform, they all step through the barrier between platforms 9 and 10 and emerge onto platform 9 and 3/4. The Scarlet Hogwarts Express waits, steam hissing, as students hug parents and load trunks. Sirius, now back in human form in a quiet corner, tells Harry to watch out for himself and promises that if he needs help, Sirius will do anything to give it. Harry worries for him too. The Ministry is hostile, and even within the wizarding world, many still think Sirius is a criminal. As Harry boards the train with Ron and Hermione, he glances back to see Sirius disappear into the crowd again. A lonely figure slipping away. They find an empty compartment at the rear of the train and are soon joined by a girl reading a magazine upside down. She has straggly, dirty blonde hair, a dreamy expression, and a wand tucked behind her ear. This is Luna Lovegood, a Ravenclaw student in Ginny Year, and the daughter of the editor of The Quibbler, a small magazine that publishes odd stories. Neville Longbottom arrives as well, already misplacing some of his belongings. The compartment fills with a familiar, slightly chaotic comfort. Harry feels grateful for these friends, old and new, as the train pulls out of the station and the countryside rolls past. On the journey, they talk about the Order, the Ministry, and their hopes and worries for the term. A new defense against the dark arts teacher has been appointed, but the Daily Prophet has said little about her. They wonder what she will be like. Soon the train slows, and rain spatters the windows. The sky over Hogsmeade is grey and heavy as they disembark. The straw-drawn carriages wait to carry the older students up to the castle. This time, Harry sees the creatures pulling the carriages for the first time. They are skeletal winged horses with reptilian faces and blank white eyes. Ron and Hermione do not see them at all, which is deeply unsettling. Luna, however, comments calmly on them, saying that she can see them too. She explains that only those who have seen death can see the Strauss. Harry thinks of Cedric dying in front of him and realizes that this is why the creatures are visible now. It is a quiet, chilly realization. They ride up to the castle under the dripping trees, and soon the towers of Hogwarts loom above them. Inside the Great Hall, candles float beneath the enchanted ceiling, which mirrors the stormy sky outside. The Sorting Hat sings a new song, one that speaks more urgently than in past years. It warns that Hogwarts must stand united in troubled times, that divisions between houses could be dangerous. As the first years are sorted, Harry watches them with a strange mix of protectiveness and jealousy. They are just beginning, unaware of the full weight of the world beyond the castle walls. When the sorting is finished, Dumbledore rises to give his usual start of term speech. He welcomes everyone, announces the changes to staff, and introduces the new defense against the dark arts teacher, Dolores Umbridge. She stands up in her fluffy pink cardigan, with curls and a wide, false smile. Her voice is high and girlish. She begins to give a little speech of her own, full of ministry phrases about educational reform and preserving what is beneficial while pruning away undesirable tendencies. Most students start whispering or tuning out, but Hermione listens closely, her brow furrowed. Harry watches the staff table. McGonagall looks furious. Dumbledore's expression stays mild but guarded. Umbridge words make it clear that the Ministry intends to interfere directly in the running of Hogwarts. She speaks of progress and tradition, of guidance and oversight, in a way that sounds kind on the surface, but hides something rigid and controlling underneath. The feast continues, but a chill runs through the school year even before classes begin. Harry senses that the safety of Hogwarts is changing. The Ministry, which refuses to admit that Voldemort has returned, is reaching into the one place that always felt like refuge. Classes begin, and the new defense against the dark arts lessons are a shock. Harry and his classmates arrive prepared to learn new defensive spells and tactics. Instead, they are greeted by pink walls, lace doilies, and framed plates of kittens around the room. Umbridge sits primly at her desk, trilling that they will be focusing on theory this year. She hands out a Ministry-approved textbook and tells them to read the first chapter in silence. There will be no practical magic, she says. They will not actually practice the spells. The Ministry believes that as they are underage, they have no need to perform powerful defensive magic. They will simply study it in case they need to pass examinations. Hermione protests first, pointing out that reading about spells is not the same as knowing how to cast them. Umbridge responds sweetly, but firmly, insisting that safety and order require restraint. Harry feels his anger rising. He has faced Voldemort himself and knows that theory alone will not protect anyone. When Umbridge suggests that there is no reason to think they will ever need to defend themselves against dark forces, he cannot stay silent. He says clearly that they do need to be ready. A dark wizard has returned. He has seen Voldemort with his own eyes. The room falls silent. Umbridge stares at him with cold interest. Then she informs Harry that the Ministry believes he is lying. Voldemort is not back, she says in the same sweet voice. Spreading false stories is dangerous. Harry argues back, voice shaking with fury. They go back and forth until Umbridge gives him detention. She notes in her log that he is a dangerous influence on other students. At his detention, Harry is asked to write lines. Umbridge gives him a quill, but no ink. When he writes the sentence, "I must not tell lies on the parchment," the words cut themselves into the back of his hand, using his own blood as ink. The pain is sharp, but he keeps writing. Umbridge watches calmly, as if this is nothing unusual. Night after night, he returns to her office and repeats the punishment. The words scar his skin faintly. Harry hides his hand from Ron and Hermione at first, not wanting to worry them. When they finally see the marks, they are horrified. Hermione urges him to tell a teacher, perhaps McGonagall, but Harry does not want to appear weak or to give Umbridge the satisfaction of causing trouble. Meanwhile, Umbridge is gaining more power. The Ministry gives her the title of High Inquisitor, allowing her to inspect and evaluate other teachers. She observes classes with a little clipboard, taking notes. Students can sense that she is judging whether each teacher is loyal to the ministry view that Voldemort has not returned. She disapproves of Trelawney, the divination teacher, who is nervous and vague. She tries to unsettle Hagrid, questioning his methods and background. She even sits in on McGonagall lessons, where the Transfiguration professor remains icy and polite, but clearly furious at the intrusion. The Daily Prophet continues its campaign of doubt and mockery. Articles imply that Harry is unstable, that Dumbledore is seeking power. Some students, particularly in Slytherin, whisper behind Harry's back and make jokes about his supposed delusions. Even some from other houses are uncertain whom to believe. Harry feels increasingly alone. His scar prickles occasionally. He has strange dreams of long, dark corridors and closed doors. He does not fully understand them yet, but senses that they are important. Quidditch, once a source of joy, becomes another battleground. After an argument with Draco Malfoy that turns into a brawl following a match, Umbridge seizes the chance to ban Harry and the twins from playing. She claims their behavior is unacceptable and uses her authority as High Inquisitor to remove them from the team permanently. Losing Quidditch feels like losing a part of himself. The sport has always been his escape, the place where he felt most free. Now it is gone, taken by someone who treats his entire life as a problem to be controlled. Hagrid is absent for the first part of the term, and when he finally returns, he is bruised and tired. He explains in low, careful words that he was on a mission for Dumbledore, trying to persuade the Giants to side with them rather than with Voldemort. The mission was hard, and the Giants are divided and often violent. Hagrid brought back something else too, a secret he reveals only to Harry, Ron, and Hermione in the forest. He has hidden his half-brother, a full giant named Grop, in the Hogwarts grounds. Grop is large, rough, and difficult to control, but Hagrid cannot bring himself to abandon him. He asks Harry and Hermione to look after Grop if Hagrid is forced to leave his teaching post. The request leaves them stunned and anxious. All through these weeks, Dumbledore keeps his distance from Harry. They pass each other occasionally in corridors or in the Great Hall, but Dumbledore always seems to be looking the other way, speaking to someone else, hurrying in another direction. Harry begins to feel that he is being avoided. He does not understand that this distance is itself a form of protection. To him, it feels like rejection. The sense of isolation deepens. At the same time, Harry dreams more often of the mysterious corridor. In the dreams, he moves along it toward a closed door that seems very important. He wakes before reaching it, his heart racing. He keeps these dreams mostly to himself, not yet realizing what they mean. Hermione, practical and observant, watches the defense classes and Umbridge tightening rules, and comes to a conclusion. If the official teacher will not teach them real defense against dark magic, they will have to find another way. They cannot afford to graduate from Hogwarts unable to protect themselves. One evening in the Gryffindor common room, she tells Harry and Ron her idea. They need someone to teach them practical spells. Someone who has faced danger and survived. Someone like Harry. At first, Harry rejects the idea. He does not see himself as a teacher. He knows he has only survived because of help from others, luck, and a lot of fear. Hermione argues gently but firmly. She points out that Harry has done more than most adults. He has fought Voldemort several times, driven away Dementors, and dealt with dragons and other dangers. Ron, who always admired Harry's courage, supports her. Slowly, Harry starts to consider it. Maybe he can at least show others what he knows. Maybe if more students are trained, they will not be so helpless if Voldemort rises further. Hermione hints that there are many students at Hogwarts who do believe Harry and Dumbledore. They are scared, and they want to be ready. If they meet in secret, away from Umbridge gaze, they might be able to build something that truly helps. This thought, fragile and daring, begins to grow into a plan. Hermione arranges a meeting in Hogsmeade, in a dingy pub called the Hoghead. Harry, Ron, and Hermione arrive early, sitting at a corner table sticky with old spills, trying not to breathe too deeply. The bartender, a gruff man with a suspicious air, glances at them with disinterest. One by one, students arrive. They come from different houses, mostly Gryffindor and Hufflepuff, with a few Ravenclaws. They have heard rumors of the meeting from friends. They are curious, nervous, and hopeful. Neville comes, hands shaking slightly, but eyes determined. Ginny, now much more confident than in her first year, joins them. Luna drifts in, dreamy, but observant. Hermione explains why they are all there. The Ministry is preventing them from learning how to defend themselves properly. If Voldemort is truly back, then they cannot rely on the adults to keep them safe. They want to form a group where they can practice defensive spells in secret, under the guidance of someone who has real experience. At first, the room is quiet. Then the students look at Harry. They have heard the stories, even if the Daily Prophet tries to discredit him. They know he survived the Triwizard Tournament and faced Voldemort. Many of them respect him for that, even if they do not know all the details. Harry hesitates, then speaks honestly about what he has done, and how much of it involved fear and help from others. He does not present himself as a hero, just as someone who has been forced into terrible situations and managed to survive. The others listen, and then one by one, they begin to agree. They will do this. They will train under Harry's guidance. They take a list of names to show who is committed. Hermione later charms this parchment with a jinx that will punish any traitor, a detail she does not share fully at first. The next question is where to meet. Hogwarts is full of secret passages and hidden rooms, but Umbridge is alert, and her inquisitorial squad patrols the corridors. Dobby, the house elf, eventually provides the answer. He tells Harry about a room that appears only when someone really needs it, a space that changes shape to suit the needs of the person seeking it. It is called the Room of Requirement. On their first visit, the room appears as a large, cozy space with cushions, bookshelves, and enough floor area for students to practice spells. It has an enormous mirror on one wall so that they can watch their posture and spell casting. The atmosphere inside feels safe and warm. They decide to name their group in honor of the wizard who believes in them and is being attacked by the Ministry. Dumbledore Army. Their first lessons focus on simple but useful spells. Harry shows them how to cast Expelliarmus, the disarming charm that once saved his life. At first, wands fly in all directions, and students trip over each other. But with practice, their aim improves. They move on to shield charms, stunners, and other useful defenses. Neville makes mistakes and falls over more than most, but he keeps getting up. Luna surprises everyone with her steady focus. Ginny turns out to be quick and strong with her spells. Even shy members gain confidence over time. The group begins to feel like a small army in training. Outside the hidden room, winter settles over Hogwarts. Snow drifts down, covering the grounds in white. The Great Hall glows with the light of Christmas trees and candles. Homework piles up as teachers prepare the fifth years for their ordinary wizarding levels. Harry is busier than ever. He sneaks off to lead the DA meetings, studies for classes, serves detentions, and worries about the war beyond the castle. Around Christmas, one of the worst nights of the year arrives. Harry falls asleep and finds himself once again in the long, dark corridor from his dreams. This time, he moves through it more quickly, as if drawn by some urgent force. He passes doors and reaches one at the end that stands slightly open. He slips through and suddenly sees the interior of an office at the Ministry of Magic, full of shelves and pictures. In the dream, he is no longer himself. He is inside a snake, a great serpent gliding along the floor. He strikes at a man sitting at a desk, sinking fangs into him again and again, savoring the taste of blood and fear. Harry wakes with a scream to find that his scar is blazing with pain. He is lying on the floor of the Gryffindor common room, where he fell asleep near the fire. Ron and others are staring at him, horrified. The man in his dream was Arthur Weasley. Harry insists that they get help immediately. Neville runs to fetch Professor McGonagall, who brings Harry to Dumbledore office at once, using a portkey to transport him to Grimmauld Place after they confirm the attack is real. Mr. Weasley has been bitten by a giant snake in the Department of Mysteries and is now being rushed to St. Mungo Hospital for magical maladies and injuries. The Weasley children and Harry gather at Grimmauld Place, shaken and afraid. Mrs. Weasley arrives from the hospital later, exhausted but hopeful. Arthur is badly injured but alive, she says, and being treated with special potions. Dumbledore appears, serious and distant. He asks Harry to describe exactly what he saw and felt during the dream, then sends him out of the room before discussing matters with the adults. Harry feels shut out again, but this time he can tell that something about his connection to Voldemort is worrying Dumbledore deeply. The group spends Christmas at Grimmauld Place. The house is decorated in a slightly gloomy way, but Mrs. Weasley does her best to make it warm. Sirius tries to be cheerful for Harry's sake, but he is clearly troubled by being confined indoors, while others go on missions. Kreacher disappears partway through the holiday, muttering about the noble House of Black. Nobody pays as much attention to this as they should. They visit Arthur at St. Mungo, where they see not only him recovering, but also other patients. They encounter Gilderoy Lockhart, their former teacher, still in the spell damage ward and without his full memory. Most powerfully, they see Neville visiting his parents, who were tortured into insanity by Death Eaters many years before. Neville carries sweets for them, but they do not recognize him. The scene is quiet and deeply sad. Harry begins to understand more of Neville's courage. After Christmas, They return to Hogwarts. Meetings continue. The group grows more skilled. Harry teaches them to produce patronuses in one lesson, though only a few manage full corporeal forms. Harry and Cho Chang, who has joined the DA, grow closer. She is still grieving Cedric and feels drawn to Harry as the only other person who truly understands what happened that night. They share a hesitant kiss after one meeting, standing in the warm glow of the room of requirement while snow falls outside. The moment is tender and awkward, yet the year is not becoming easier. Umbridge continues to tighten her control. She places educational decrees on the walls, banning student organizations that are not ministry approved, limiting teachers' freedom, and restricting the press within the school. Flyers, notices, and rules spread like vines. Harry dreams more often of the corridor and the door at its end. He shares these dreams with Dumbledore once or twice through intermediaries, but the headmaster keeps distance, working behind the scenes. At last, Dumbledore decides that it is too dangerous for Harry's mind to remain unguarded. Voldemort can place visions in it, or even, perhaps, influence his thoughts. Harry is ordered to take extra lessons, not in charms or potions, but in a rare mental art, Occlumency. Snape is to be his teacher,